All right.
Hello and welcome to the Alopecia Advocate podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Anderson. This is where we open up about real conversations on hair loss, healing, and hope. This space is for education, empowerment, and alleviating the stigma surrounding hair loss and alopecia. Together, we'll explore stories, science, and the strategies that can help us all to see the beauty, the strength, and the confidence of everyone in a new light. My special guest today is Deeann Graham. And today we're going to dive into her journey, her insights, and what drives her work to support and inspire others. But first, allow me the opportunity to share a little bit about Deeann with you. Deeann Graham is the award-winning author of Head On, Stories of Alopecia, and an alopecia coach and consultant, educator, advocate. She was first diagnosed with alopecia areata when she was 7 years old. She published Head On Stories of Alopecia to share stories and photos of people around the world who are living with alopecia in order to provide a broad perspective on the journey of hair loss. Educating communities in order to empower others who have been diagnosed, especially in the beauty and medical industries. It's an important part of Deann's outreach. She is also the host of Alopecia Life podcast, where she continues to educate and share stories to help others realize that they are not alone. We welcome Deann. Hi, Deann, and thank you for joining me here today.
Hi, Stephanie. It's great to be here on your podcast. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. And I appreciate that you accepted the invitation. Just wanted to bring a little bit more information with September being Alopecia Awareness Month. So I appreciate the time you've taken today to meet with me. But we have a little bit of time issue, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because I imagine that people are really going to want to hear what you have to share. When we talk about personal reflections, Deanne, what does alopecia awareness mean to you, and how or has it impacted your personal or professional life?
Well, looking back, since I've had alopecia since I was 7, I didn't talk about it at all. I think that that's a very normal thing. I think you don't ever want to set yourself aside as different, and so you try to blend in, you do your thing. For me, that meant covering up, wearing a hat, wearing a wig, and then I did have regrowth when I was about 14, and so my hair grew back, and um, that changed things for me. But almost immediately I started having more loss, and I was again, having I got married and had kids, and by the time that happened, it was more, I think when you have kids, you start to think about what is their life going to be like with a mother who looks different, right? I think that that's a normal thought. And for me, it was really important for them to see that I could walk in my power, but I didn't know what that looked like, right? I mean, it was like covering up and then recovering actually when it fell out again as an adult. And um, after kind of recognizing that I needed to do something, and I started to also explore the book, there was that aspect of it too. I thought, what would that look like for me? And it was really just a transition from just trying it a little bit and a little bit more. And I think that everybody has a different idea of what that looks like for them. They just want to go completely bold and they go to a restaurant or they go to a concert or something that's very public. And I say that, people can just walk to the mailbox and start to kind of acclimate to what it is to be different in your own skin, right? You're not covering if that's, and I'm not saying covering is a bad thing. I think that it's very necessary for so many. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I love that. And your journey started when you were very young. And then you have the regrowth, and to
Mhm.
be able to navigate that at two different pivotal moments in your life, when childhood to adulthood, motherhood, and
Mhm.
defining what that means to you, and not only just for you, for your children. So a lot of time I know as women, it's not just all about us, especially if we have children or a family, we start to consider even things that affect us, how they may affect those who are around us.
Mhm.
So I love the fact that you do share that, because I hear it sometimes and I'm not really knowing how to navigate it, Deanne. Um, there's sometimes a disconnect between those who want to cover up, wearing wigs or whatever, and those who don't. And I
Mhm.
don't understand, because it should be like a solidarity thing.
Mhm.
My thing
Yeah.
is, regardless how you want to share up in the world, you should feel good here. And
Yeah,
that's what's
absolutely.
important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I do I do see that sometimes and I think it is a very individual thing. I'm all about, you know, you choose what you want and I'm here for you, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And I have a really tight group of friends who have gone through different transitions with their hair loss. Some have grown back, and some are seeking treatment, and some would never do that in a million years, right? And so but it doesn't make us any less of friends. It doesn't change the way we feel about each other. It's our own personal choice and journey, certainly.
Yes, and I love that. I love that. So I want to talk about some advocacy insights, because that's why we're here today, to
Mhm.
advocate for, bring awareness to. So I want to know, in your area of expertise, I know that you are a woman that is living with alopecia, and then you advocate for. What do you believe are the most important, what would be the most important steps to raise awareness about alopecia and support those who are affected by it?
As far as raising awareness, I think that you and I definitely talked beforehand where you said, awareness and advocacy is 365, right? It doesn't come in September 1st and end at the end of the month. It's every day for us. And showing up in that way and just being able to talk to it when the situation calls for it, and there seems to be many opportunities for that throughout the day. If you're just walking out. So I find that's an important piece of it. I know that looking, different, not having hair invites a certain level of questioning, and I also noticed that people don't really care if you don't oftentimes, and if you pay attention, there's a lot more paying attention that you do, right? I mean, people will be looking at you, but sometimes you just don't notice. And that to me is that point where you've come to that point where you go, yes, this I've done it. I didn't notice all of the people looking, and it's not that they're not. I mean, and maybe they aren't. They're just noticing like, oh, okay. That's the way she is, but I also am really open to questions. I'm able to answer, and if I see a young kid, you know, looking at me, I will smile and I'll smile at the parent and I'll just kind of, I don't necessarily invite conversation because I don't think it's everybody's right to just ask whatever they want whenever they want. I think there does need to be some, um,
Boundaries, or
boundaries.
yes,
Yeah, great
yeah,
word.
I'm all for
Perfect.
boundaries.
Yeah, I've been asked in very interesting locations. I'm like, is this really happening right
Yeah.
now in this moment? So
But it's an educational moment for them, for you
it
to educate
is.
them on appropriateness,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And it does vary, right? Because as an adult, I can handle that.
Yeah,
But I don't believe that kids
yeah.
are necessarily equipped for it initially, and we can
Yeah.
teach them as much as we can, but we also need to let them know that they don't have to answer. They
Yes.
absolutely do not. So
Yes.
that's really important to me. A lot of my work is in the space with children and families, and that's where my heart is, because I know the resources that my family didn't have and that I see all the time. There's great work happening with the Children's Alopecia Project, with NAF, and all these other
Yes.
wonderful nonprofits, and that all works together to make this kind of an easier process on all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's more about, you hear a lot about, um, okay, we're gonna cure this, we're gonna treat this, we're gonna do this, and a lot of that is really not paying attention to how the child feels necessarily. They may want hair. I mean, I was just talking to a parent who said their son, the hardest part is not having eyebrows.
Mm,
And I'm kind of wanting to get to, is it really about not having eyebrows, or is it how they look without eyebrows, right? I mean,
yes.
there's that question. And
Yeah.
so without treating the eyebrows and the head with a topical that may or may not work, or even a natural remedy, it's just, you want them to think about what else that they can do, and then build the confidence along with it. It's a combination, right? I mean, you're like, let's do this and let's build their confidence,
Yes.
build, because we all want our children to be confident whether they have alopecia or not. So
Yes. That
mhm,
is so important. And thank you for beginning the conversation about the children because you living with it and having it begun at the tender age of 7, you would know those experiences and how they feel. So the mere fact that you are able to, as a parent, would address their concerns about their child to you, you have that lived experience. What concerns me is that not everybody has that. Not everybody's able to
mhm,
articulate that. It requires support, you know.
mhm, yep.
And even with support, it's hard. I am I'm able to volunteer for a nonprofit that gives wigs away. And I always ask about how are they, we talk, how is school going? And those that are bullied, I always make myself available. I can come talk to your homeroom class or,
Mhm.
auditorium because it's important because there are adults struggling with that emotionally. And so just like you shared, there are children. What do you what do you do as far as I guess having the support and the conversation with the children, but how can we better navigate and help? I call them the babies, but the children who are going through, it's hard enough through that formative and adolescent years with
Mhm.
hair. But if
Right.
if you have something that kind of distinguishes you from other children, how do you kind of navigate that for them?
I definitely believe that there is a way for everybody, and it's not the same for each of us, right?
Okay,
And
yeah,
so you have, I recommend to parents, I do webinars and I do one-on-one coaching and things like that. But when we're talking about school, that is one of the things that comes up, right? How are
mm,
we going to share about alopecia with the class and their peers and their sports teams, whatever it might be? And for your child, that may be different. And this child
yeah,
over here, they're completely want to talk about it all the
yeah,
time. So there's that. And so I recommend sometimes when they're especially very young, um, taking a book into the classroom, right? That is so effective.
yeah,
Reading a book, the teacher reading it, or I have videos that are on YouTube that are kind of, they feature kids in my book in Head On
hmm
Stories of Alopecia, but they feature them, and then they have little things that, like
narratives,
like a teacher, or a parent, or an older person who could read, because sometimes they don't, little kids, they're not even reading yet, but
yeah,
they can understand photos and they can hear
yeah,
the voice of these kids through an adult voice, and it does have a lot of power, and so I think that that's an exciting way to kind of bring it in. We've got, you could have Jeff from the Children's Alopecia come in, and bring a bag of books and talk
yeah,
about his story and his daughter's story, and what, I mean, his life goal really is to just build confidence in every child with alopecia. And what type of goal is better than that, really? So that he's a good resource as well, and he'll go anywhere. He literally will go anywhere. So there's that, and I think the other thing, the big thing that I'm working on right now is when a child gets diagnosed, when an adult gets diagnosed, they are limited within a doctor appointment to maybe a 20-minute appointment, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and I
If
think
that.
I'm if I'm being generous,
I
right?
was
Like 20
being generous
minutes
with
or
20.
yeah.
I'm thinking more
Maybe
15.
11, yeah, depending on what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And they are taking that time um to address what's going on, try to diagnose, and then send you away with a medication, most likely. But,
Mhm.
and they say I hear it all the time. They're recognizing about the psychosocial impact of alopecia. They understand that it's a big deal, but they do not have time during appointments. So, my goal is to reach these people immediately when they are diagnosed. And yes, it can't be handled in the doctor's office, but it can be outsourced,
Yes.
and that's what I'm all about right now. If they can't do it in the office, which we know they can't,
No.
it's they've admitted it, and they've validated that, and but they've also validated that it's important that there is help out there, and I think that getting people the resources they need sooner rather than later. I don't think people should be going, oh, I didn't know this was available until 5 years later. If they want a wig, if they want a a special scarf for sports, if they're older, they want to learn about makeup, if they, these, and 100% I believe that parents should be following these really good examples on social media, and then, vet them and figure out who they want to share with their children. And especially, these young teens are online all the time, and they're on Instagram, and they see, and there are some positive things happening,
Yes, there are.
more awareness, right? I mean, it's all great. It's all coming together. So we have a long way to go, but I'm really excited about where it is right now.
You're right. There's still a way to go, but I think we're making good traction in
Hmm.
what, and then it's an event individual thing. So I'm glad that you noted that as well. But
Hmm.
there's so many options for children to be able to express themselves, whether
Hmm.
they want coverage or not, or whatever.
Right.
But self-expression is so important, and being given the opportunity to be able to do that, especially at a younger age, to help them.
Hmm.
So we're going to talk
Yeah.
about advocacy rights.
Okay.
Um, no, let's talk about breaking stigmas. Those,
Okay.
those, those impossible standards of beauty that society places on people.
Hmm.
How can society better support someone with alopecia or hair loss? And what role do you think, professionals? I know we talked about the medical professional, but how
Hmm.
can people help to break those stigmas?
I think that if we do not give a name to it, and people are guessing, they will always go to cancer, right? I mean, we know
Yes.
that. We
Yeah.
know that. This is the look of cancer,
Yeah.
but, at the same time there is, look at these children jumping around on the playground. They have energy, they have things. And so my goal has always been to think alopecia first before
Yes.
cancer. And that to me is a really important quality of people looking beyond their first impression, and
Mm.
just going, okay, this is probably something different. And then, I've talked to a lot of parents where they just say, stop staring, t-shirts that are like,
Yeah.
stop staring, this is alopecia, or this is
Yeah.
alopecia, look it up. Or and really, it's not up to our kids to educate all the time. Like I said that
Yeah.
before, people
Yeah.
can go Google and it will come right up.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to advocate and to educate, so much that we are breaking those stigmas in, just because we're doing it.
Yes.
We're talking about it and we're saying this is alopecia,
Yes.
and you can have the opportunity to go look it up. It's at your fingertips. And
Yes.
if people have questions, I'm always open to share about it. And that's not always the case for everybody, right? They're not ready to share. And I think that it does happen in time. And I think that I think our kids need to feel like there's nothing wrong with them, that we're not trying to fix them, that it's, I mean, all of the things that we don't want our kids to shoulder. And that's just an important piece of this too, so that they don't feel like they have to hide because, you know, mommy's crying or daddy, wants me to put a hat on or whatever it is, right? Like they take on a lot, and without talking about it, it it's just kind of this quietness that is misunderstood, I
Yes.
guess.
Yes. In addition to, of course, supporting the child who is living with it, being there's a resource of providing information to help that parent as they navigate it through.
Mm-hmm.
Is very important.
Yeah.
And representation matters. I wish that there was more It's getting better. It's getting
Mm-hmm.
better, but I wish
Yeah.
there was more representation to where when some beautiful person walks around without any hair, people won't stop and stare because they've seen a model on
Mm-hmm.
TV or they've
Right.
seen someone in a print ad, just like they're
Right.
making other things a little bit more um, accepted or seen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say seen for lack of a better word than accepted. We don't need their
Yeah.
acceptance, but
Right.
visible, making it more visible. I think that there's more representation that it would kind of like, they're not even paying attention because they're used to seeing, and that's what I hope
Mm-hmm.
for the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what about encouraging conversations, encouraging the talk, encouraging? I know that not everybody, it's not warranted that you have to, and
Mm-hmm.
especially we talk about the babies. I don't think that even developmentally they're even prepared for that.
Mm-mm.
But for an adult who is open to it, how is that conversation encouraged, or what would you say?
Yeah. I think that oftentimes when people come to me, they want to do something, but they don't know what that looks like, or they're living. I had an 18-year-old boy a few weeks ago reach out, and he said, I want to feel comfortable going out in public. And we talked about his life. I mean, it was a 20-minute appointment, and I listened, which is a huge part of this, right? You listen to
Yeah.
what they want, and then you say, well, let's try this option. And then we worked through it, and he told me, no, I think I need, you know, an accountability partner who has alopecia, who understands what I'm going through, so that we can check in on each other. So I think that communities so important. So people, we're not born to do anything in life in isolation, right? I mean, this is not, especially going through a challenge like this, it's we are not built that way. And I think that reaching out to community, finding someone who understands, getting educated so that you can educate in a manner that is um,
Responsible.
responsible and accurate.
Yes.
And when people ask, you say, it's called this,
Mhm.
and this is what is going on with me. This is how I feel about it, if they want to talk about it. And sometimes in the workplace, it's interesting. Things come up too where people think that they're sick, and so they're not talking about it. And so people think they're ill, and they're wondering about their if they're going to continue to be able to work. And there's all the things. And so if there's just a little bit of dialogue about it, and enough to just calm the chatter, so to speak. And I think that is really effective for kids or adults.
It's like without the conversation, people can think a lot of stuff that is not the truth. It's
Yeah.
not contagious. I mean,
Hmm.
without the conversation, are they going to be able, are they okay?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so I think the conversations are definitely warranted and needed.
Yeah, definitely.
So if we talked about the future, your vision, looking ahead, what changes or advancements would you like to see, Deanne, in the conversation as it pertains to alopecia, and that would benefit those people who are currently living with it? What does the future look like?
I think definitely the future would look like what I was talking about before, is when diagnosis happens, they
Hmm.
have the resources that are available to them. They have even, support groups that are available, a selection of books, any so even people on social media, a list of that. And I have all of those things, but it's about people figuring out who we are, right? And just being able to reach us. There's that, but the resources in the community are probably one of the most important pieces of this community. Community is, it's like I can't even say enough about that, because when you're in community, you feel like you're not alone. You're not alone. And so that creates the ability to even become mentors, so it's like it's a passed on type thing, and we're helping the next generation with what they're going through. And it doesn't even have to be with alopecia. So ideally, I'd love that to be happening kind of at the ground level, so to speak, at the clinic, at the doctor's office, at the dermatologist, when they go, oh, these we're going to work on, let's say you're wanting treatment, so we're going to do this with treatment, and here's this other great resource you can go
Mhm.
to find community, to find out. The one other thing is, I noticed, and you might notice with your clients, is that they choose to isolate. Like, they don't want to go out, they stop doing the things that they love. And this happens with kids too. They don't want to go to school, they don't want to do activities. And those are those things that make us kind of who we are, that we love, playing music, all of those things that help when we do that, when we go outside, when we, go swimming, when we do all those things that we love, that builds up our resilience, right? And so I always encourage that. Don't give up on the things you love. That, I guess, that's one of the most important things too.
I love that. And yes, the answer to your question, although rhetorical, yes, I've seen it too many more times to mention, is that people start to self-isolate. They're not
Mhm.
social anymore when they used to be the life of the party
Mhm.
so the conversation definitely needs to be happening. Support is paramount,
Mhm.
community. And I love the idea that the teenager you mentioned, he said, all he needs probably maybe is an accountability partner, someone
Mhm.
who understands.
Mhm.
Because if he asked his parents about it, they wouldn't be able to relate, although they would want
Mhm.
to. But
Yeah.
someone who is living the life that, is familiar with it could be a
Yeah.
resource for him. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So time, of course, when you start having a conversation, then it just goes by so quickly.
It
I know
does.
there's going to be somebody who's maybe interested in your podcast or maybe even your book. Is it possible that you can give your contact information as a resource so they can follow up with you?
Absolutely. They can come over and contact me on alopecialife.com, and that shows all the things that I have available. I've got free resources. We talk about camp and, wigs for kids and children with hair loss and all the things, and selection of books. And so it's all over there, and it's always growing and changing. So alopecialife.com, and I have a contact page on there. They can contact me there. They can also follow me on Instagram at alopecia life coach, and I'm on Facebook at Alopecia Life too. So,
Awesome. So there's her
yeah,
information. I invite you to check her out. This is going to be this episode of the Alopecia Advocate podcast. Until next time, take care and be blessed. Bye bye.